Hello, I'm Amara Jones, and today is Friday, March 6th. This is Caffeine TV, your daily news brief, here to take you through 3 headline numbers in just 3 minutes, giving you a different take on everything from housing policy to the Real Housewives. The first number today is 0 and a major victory for the global fight against Ebola. There are currently no known cases of Ebola in Liberia. As a matter of fact, the last Ebola patient, Beatrice Ardolo, walked out of our Liberian clinic yesterday. Now, according to the New York Times, if the country remains without any new cases over the next several weeks, it will be declared officially Ebola-free by the World Health Organization on April 4th. Now, this is just a stunning turn of events. As we've spoken about here before, Liberia was the hardest hit country and the center of the epidemic in West Africa, with over 5,000 lives lost. And if you just asked someone a couple of months ago if the country would be Ebola-free, they would have given you that look that Sissy Houston had on the David Letterman show. But the job isn't done yet. Just next door in Sierra Leone and Guinea, the number of new cases has increased by 50%. So there's more to do. But undoubtedly, this is good news and shows that Ebola can be stopped. And for all those haters in Congress who chastise President Obama for spending hundreds of millions of dollars and sending thousands of U.S. troops to Africa to save lives, you ought to be ashamed of yourselves. The next number today is 14, as in episode 14 of Scandal last night, entitled The Lawn Chair. It was a storyline ripped right out of the headlines. All this week we've spoken about the fact that the news this week has been dominated by that out of Ferguson, and ironically, last night's episode tracked the death of Michael Brown, with an unarmed black teenager being shot and killed by a white police officer while on his way back home from a cell phone store, with his body lying in the street for hours. Now, last night's episode had many of the hallmarks of the Ferguson case that we know. The cop was a dead ringer for Officer Darren Wilson. There was a grieving black father who stood vigil over his son's body for hours, and there was a crowd from the community who gathered with him to demand justice. But one of the most interesting things last night was not what was happening on television, but what was happening in reality. On Twitter, Kerry Washington said that she was at home sobbing throughout the entire episode. Dante Berry, an activist with Million Hoodies, said that the show packed an emotional punch because it mirrored many of his experiences in Ferguson. And Shonda Rhimes, the show's creator, said that the show took an emotional toll on the crew and the actors as they were filming it. Well, this is the 50th anniversary this weekend of the March on Selma, and all of this just goes to show that while the structure of racism may have changed, the reality of it has not, and that all of those who have endured the searing emotional experience of it still bear the scars. The last number up today is 2. That's the jersey number of the first Division I NCAA basketball player to come out, Derrick Gordon, who's 23 years old and plays for the University of Massachusetts. Now, he came out a little less than a year ago, and the Washington Post decided to do a follow-up to see what had happened during the last year, and the answer is, well, not that much. Now, at first, his fellow players were a little reticent about him coming out, but after they figured out that he wasn't attracted to them, things got back to normal. And he's traveled through some really conservative places over the past year, like Louisiana, but has been greeted with applause and rainbow flags, with more people chanting about his mohawk than the fact that he's gay. He said that the only annoying thing about the last year is that some people follow him around, take pictures, and post them on Twitter saying things like, "That's my baby." Well, with the lackluster response to Michael Sam in the NFL, and also the fact that there are a number of closeted professional athletes who cower in fear, there's that saying that the children will lead, and the fact is that 23-year-old Derrick Gordon is showing them how it's done.